Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the European crossover webinar. And we just received Italian consumer confidence, which came in at 94.3 versus the expected 88.5. And we also got German Brandenburg down 1/10 for May versus previously down 6/10 positive. Minus spot one for German state of Hesse. So getting those regional German information didn't show in here, but does come across on the squawk. And then at the top of the hour, we do get Eurozone business climate and economic sentiment, as well as industrial and services sentiment at the top of the hour, as well as final consumer confidence. German CPI has came in at minus 1/10 in May versus previous 0.5% positive. As I mentioned, German Brandenburg came in down 1/10 versus previous 6/10, and German CPI Bavaria, once again regional data, came in at negative 0.2 versus the previous 0.5. Later on today at 6 a.m. Eastern, because I'm in Central, so it shows 5. It's going to be Italian producer prices. And then at 8 a.m. Eastern, we're going to get German CPI preliminary. They're expecting down 1/10 month over month, with year positive 0.6 for year over year preliminary CPI. Then as we roll into the States, we'll get durable goods at 8:30 Eastern, as well as a second estimate of GDP. Core PCE, wow, got a lot of data coming out today at 8:30 Eastern. Initial jobless claims. We will have Canadian current account. And then at 10 a.m. Eastern, we will have pending home sales and Kansas City Fed manufacturing. So quite a bit of data that we're going to be hitting the morning at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. And of course, as I mentioned, German CPI preliminary at 8 a.m. Eastern. We did see quite the rebound in SPOOs, and we've even continue to see this run higher. It looked like that was going to be it for yesterday. I've actually got the SPOOs in the NASDAQ side by side, and then on another screen I've got the YM and the Russell. But we have seen this come right back up again here. And you can see the move that we made here. We got above 30.51. Actually, 30.54 is 127% extension, and we'll just take a quick look there. You can see here with the S&Ps, this actually is 127% extension from this move here. So we came into some pretty good support. Actually, I picked it up in the morning. I wish I would have hung on to it, but I shared that in the room. We had 29.72 was a level, confluencing with 29.69, which was a 50% back of this range at the time. From here to here, that actually held, and we actually saw, like I said, a hammer bottom, which I didn't expect this to go much higher, maybe up to 3,000, maybe 3,002, and rotate lower. But unfortunately, like I said, we continue to go on and move higher, and all the way into the close, And even then, I thought probably this would keep it in check, but we even got past that. And at least for a target for them to go to, you can see here they went up here to the 127% extension if we kind of run out of gas up in this upper area here. That could actually run us up if we were to keep on going up to 3105. And one thing that keeps going also is we are above the 200-day moving average, and that is right here. We're able to get above it, we're able to defend it, and now back above it, so they can keep this thing still plugging along. And looking down here on the 2 hour, be 3061. Pretty good area there, 3061. A lot of volume there too. So, this thing has really just been, I can't believe it's made it all the way up in here, but it has. And I think what they're doing is they're obviously looking at the longer term plays, because if you look at it, whether you look at it the daily, once again, they've defended the 200-day moving average, or you look on the 2 hour, which we did establish a hammer bottom, and apparently just still going. To me, yesterday it looked like it was going to be a liquidation day, or not a liquidation, but a distribution. And we did get that, and we even saw sustained selling, but we did see this market come back. And from there, we just kept pushing higher. Then looking here with the Dow futures, right up here, made it up here to this 5677, which is very key here. As well as pop back up here. Not as strong though here in the Nasdaq. You can see the Tesla looks like, and we even had essentially really not a gravestone doji, because Wix was really like a shooting star 2 days ago almost. I mean, Wix pretty long, and we'll look how we come right back here, close above this, so it opens the door for them to challenge even higher. So certainly they have everything almost going their way right now at this point in the indices. With that, we'll go on and cover the news. Okay, on the morning bid, Hong Kong tension threatens to sour global optimism. China's planned security law for Hong Kong and rising tensions with the U.S. threatens to sour the tone in world markets, hopeful that the global economy can recover as the coronavirus lockdowns ease. Riot police were deployed across Hong Kong on Thursday as lawmakers debated a bill that would criminalize disrespect of China's national anthem. prompting Asian shares to erase their gains. The biggest risk to the equities is the Sino-U.S. relationship, which could worsen after U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Hong Kong would no longer warrant special treatment under U.S. law. U.S. equities are within a few percentage points of their record high. So far on Thursday, U.S. stock futures are holding up, and European equity markets have opened more than 0.5% higher. Support world markets is the European Union's €750 billion plan on Wednesday to prop up the economies hammered by the coronavirus. Under the proposal, the Commission could borrow from the market and then disperse two-thirds of the funds in grants and the rest in loans to cushion the unprecedented slump expected this year to lockdowns. News went down well with investors who pushed the euro to 8-week highs versus the dollar on Thursday. Bond yields in Southern Europe, home to some of the hardest hit economies from the pandemic, are near their lowest levels in around 2 months. In a further sign, the pain inflicted by the virus, airline EasyJet said it planned to cut to 30% of its staff. In M&A, I'm not really interested in that. So let's go and move on. Next thing, the dollar stands its ground as U.S.-China tensions grow. The dollar held its own on Thursday as rising Sino-U.S. tensions put crushing pressure on the Chinese yuan and proved a counterweight to optimism. The escalating war of words between the world's two biggest economies spilled over into Australia and New Zealand dollars, as far as a more cautious mood holds currency markets. Hong Kong is the newest flashpoint, with Secretary Pompeo. China's plans to impose laws there was only the latest in a series of actions that fundamentally undermine the city's autonomy and freedoms. The Aussie Kiwi backed off 2-month highs hit in the London session and were becalmed even as the reopening of the world's economies and markets were rallying. Overall, the macro story is too hard to ignore and things are picking up, said Jason Wong. But down under here, obviously China is an important part of what drives markets, and markets are awaiting China's response on Hong Kong. Financial Times reports that coal traders analysts expect China to tighten import rules. The U.S. is crafting a range of options to punish China over tightening grip on Hong Kong. Elsewhere, the dollar was marginally firmer against the yen. Against the basket of currencies was steady at 98.86. The euro at an 8-week peak of 11.03. And on to the euro creeps on the EU Recovery Fund. The EU continued its rise on Thursday. EU unveiled a plan on Wednesday to support the economies. Under the proposal, the EU dispersed two-thirds of the funds in grants. In the event we actually see the European Commission adopt a proposal similar nature of the stature of the French-German proposal, we do think that would be positive for the euro. We would expect to see some euro dollar head higher, and in particular, euro Swiss headed, especially given the long position in Swiss franc and built up quite significantly as a result. Could see an exacerbated move. Euro was up at 11.01, having risen earlier to a 2-month high of 11.03.5. Index tracking the U.S. dollar against currencies was stable at 98.93, and the war of words between the largest economies escalated. The U.S. is currently crafting a range of options to punish China. So with that, we'll just go on and move into our analysis. I think they're saying it was 111, but I don't see any 111. I think they meant to put 110, because it looks like they put 111. Anyway, with that being said, let's move on. So the euro added further to its gains, challenging bias chart resistance 1021, closing at 110. Resistance for Thursday will be 1053 with support at 952. You can see we got just above the prior day's highs, but this 1021 overall, which I don't know why I had it in reverse, but 1021 for resistance held. And but we will move it up to 1053. And support will be 952. On to the cable. The cable finished lower on Wednesday, finishing in the middle of the day's range as buyers did not materialize after shorts were squeezed on Tuesday. Resistance will be 2330. You can see we're dead in the water here with support at 2176. And on the Aussie paired back on Wednesday as risk slid back in early U.S. trading. A breather may be in play, and resistance will be 6680 with support at 6547. And onto the Kiwi. The Kiwi, just like its cousin, took a pause after the last 2 weeks. You can see here the last 2 weeks we saw such a strong move. Resistance will be 6205 with support emanating at 6128. And onto the CAD. So the dollar CAD pushed the lower bound on Wednesday, finding support at 37.25. Support will be 37.08. Support will be 37.08 with resistance at 38.77. So we did have 37.21. You came pretty close. So they did find support 37.25. 37.25. They're trading in a very quiet mood here. Really across the board, we've been seeing this in FX lately. It just stays quiet in Europe overall. You get some moves, but overall it stays relatively quiet. But we will dip the support down to potentially down here for 37.08. With resistance at 38.77. We've had 2 days consecutively below these lows, so we can now flip this down to bearish. Still hesitant to flip the euro to bullish. And let's go and move in now to the dollar peso. So the dollar peso is trading in a tight range, just above 22. Support remains 21.89 with resistance at 22.50. And yesterday we had 22.48. High was what, 22.48. So we've moved this to 22.50, just a hair higher. But support's going to remain the same here, 21.89. And boy, this has just been one heck of a break. And let's pull up the dollar yen. So the dollar yen remains in a tight range with a bit of a bid. Resistance will now be 840, just in case we're going to break higher. Well, that was the prior date, and that was an error. I meant to put 804, so I don't know why it came up that way. Sorry about that. But resistance will be 804. We're just moving it up just a little bit. And support will be 720. So that stayed the same. And the dollar index closed Wednesday with a doji. The index has the potential for a rebound. Resistance will be 99.48 with support at 98.67. So the resistance will stay the same. The only difference is the support's going to dip down just a little bit. And with that, that'll wrap up the majors. So let's go and move into the cross rates. So we did see the Kiwi install just a little bit after challenging up in here at the 67.17. We actually had a resistance at 67 even, but you can see here where they challenged. So we'll just move that up right here, which is that key major level. Didn't even think it would make it quite up there, but they did, which is right there, 67.18. It looks like this market may have run out of gas here also. So I think we're going to go and keep this at the 67 cent mark because we're already at 67.54, 66.54, I should say. And just as we had mentioned about the Aussie and Kiwi themselves, we think a little bit of a pair back, a little bit of pullback was going to be warranted. And we'll look for starters for right here to come back, which is going to be 65.80. Moving on to the euro yen, well, we are seeing the euro continue to strengthen. We probably have pushed this a little bit as much as it will go. Resistance, you can see here, some good touches coming across here, which is going to be 1903. We'll go with the 1903, although it looks like it's put in its high for the day, but we'll give it the benefit of the doubt as we go in towards the end of the week. But it's already had a pretty good run here. Look at that. Nearly 200 pips. But we'll give it the 1903. That would take us into tomorrow. Unless something dramatically happens, it has turned bullish. And as far as support, it's going to be below this 1817. So it's going to be right there. 1802. The euro just trying to pick itself up after dipping to new lows. Certainly the odd looks like it may take a breather, as well as the Kiwi. So with that said, we're going to go right there with right here. You see here, that confluences with this one. That would be support. I think we do a little bit better than that. A 65. Let's just call it 65.40. And resistance, well, certainly it's opened the door for this to go much higher. Resistance is going to be 67.63. And I don't know why it's bearish. It's going to be a while before it gets to bullish. Let's go into the Euro Kiwi. we'll go with support right there at that open, which is going to be 77.15. With resistance coming up right here at this level, which is going to be 78.87. And I think the Aussie yen's probably gone about as far as it can go up in here. And I think we can actually lower the high. The resistance is going to be right there, that close right there, which is going to be 71.52 for resistance. And support, well, looking for a bit of a pair back. Support's going to come down here, 70.46. Doesn't mean we're going to get there today, but I think eventually that's what we'll get to, 70.46. And moving on to the guppy, probably no changes here. Let's see, we had 33.24. That probably was a little bit too generous. We'll just go right there with this high. A little bit of confluence here with some touches here. That's going to be 32.75. And support coming right there. You see that coming right across here. And below the day's low, which is yesterday's low, 31.51. And on to the sterling odd. Continues to remain weak here. No changes here. No changes here in the sterling odd. That's going to remain the same. No changes. So that's going to wrap it up here for FX. A relatively quiet day. We can go and take a look at gold quickly. We talked about this yesterday. We were right here at this 1700 area here. Some decent little bit of support here. We've gone and added another $20. Actually, it should have already rolled into the August gold, actually, already. I know I'm still doing with the June. So let me move that into the August. Maybe quiet and it's taking a little while to load up. I don't know why. And Looking at July, crude. At 31.72. And we pulled back, but it hasn't made much of a difference here with equities, as equities have pretty much stayed bid. Still waiting for this August gold to go and load up. For whatever reason, it has not. But the June, still here at 1720. But that's going to go and wrap it up for today. Thanks for joining us here in the European Crossover webinar, and we'll see you in the chat room.